Hello and welcome to the Watchful Citizen, a local access program presented by the Lancaster County Democratic Party. Today's guest is Michael O'Hara, candidate for state treasurer. Welcome to the program, Michael.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'd like to start by asking you to tell us a little bit about Michael. Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Okay.
Let our viewers know something about you.
I was born in Detroit, Michigan. Father worked at with Ford, and after designing the marketing plan for the Edsel, had opportunities to explore other opportunities. And we moved around doing management and ended up arriving in Omaha in '69. Been in Omaha and Lincoln since 1969. He designed the Vickers plant that some may remember. It's no longer there at 72nd and Sorensen. But I've been in Omaha and Lincoln since '69. I consider myself a Nebraskan.
So you got your education here in Nebraska?
Yes, graduated from Westside High School in Omaha and then went down to Lincoln and attended school, got a bachelor's in Lincoln and a law degree at Lincoln and an economics degree, a PhD in economics at Lincoln, because it was such a fine set of education. And there is often the joke about it being the Harvard of the Plains, but that used to be very, very true, and it still is, depending upon departments, true.
Where do you live now?
I currently live in Omaha. I teach at the University of Nebraska at Omaha, which is why I tease the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
And you're teaching law, economics, a little bit of both?
Yes, I'm in the college business at the University of Nebraska-Omaha and teach law and economics to undergraduate and graduate students, and live right close. UNO's College of Business is now down in Ack Village, Exarban Village. If you know where Exarban was, that's where it is. It's
Okay.
in the middle of the racetrack, and I live in an apartment in that area as well.
Okay. So you are running to become state treasurer. Give us a little civics lesson. What is the Nebraska state treasurer? What do they do?
The state treasurer's office is one of several constitutional offices. The constitutional offices are statewide. All the people elect them. We have a state treasurer for two primary tasks, one of which has been made much simpler with technology, the other of which is purely a system of checks and balances issue. The thing that's made simpler with technology is you write checks. And the Department of Administrative Services under the governor writes all the checks, but the countersign has to be by the treasurer. And the governor tries to raise all the revenue that the legislature has authorized through taxes, and that would be the governor's Department of Revenue. The check and balance, and the real reason you have it as a constitutional office, is that the all governors everywhere, always, would like to write a check that they don't necessarily have authorization to write, and they would like to write a check in bad times they don't have cash for. So what the treasurer does is enforce the balanced budget amendment so that the state of Nebraska doesn't run a debt, and the way you make sure of that is the guy who wants to write the checks, governor, has to get somebody to countersign, that's the treasurer. They have a variety of other tasks assigned to the treasurer's office. It used to be the treasurer's office did all the cash management. All the cash that was laying around was managed by the treasurer's office. We've now transferred many of those tasks to a professional group, the Nebraska Investment Council, and they would have chartered financial analysts on it and staff. The treasurer's office, treasurer serves ex officio on that job as well. Treasurer serves ex officio on the election board. And probably the most prominent part of the job in terms of the public's awareness, not actually what you do, is unclaimed property. And so anytime you buy something with a gift card and you don't empty out the gift card, at the end of a period of time, it varies by the type of debt. If that money is turned over from the private party that was holding your money and couldn't find you to the state treasurer, and this is true in all the states, then tries to find you. That's the unclaimed property. And if the state treasurer cannot return to you your money, then it formally escheats to the state. It becomes the state's property. That goes to the permanent school fund. one of the projects I want to work on is increasing the permanent school fund, and there are several ways that money come into it. Another job of the treasurer is they manage several long-term savings programs. The long-term savings programs include like the 529, where you can save for higher education, and we should have more people participating in it, and that would be something I would try to do. We also have a Nebraska almost specific, it's not necessarily in the federal tax code, long-term health care. And lastly, the one thing they do that the treasurer's office does that almost everyone tries to not acknowledge because it's not a happy task, they collect child support payments ordered by the courts, and then they distribute child support payments ordered by the courts, because the courts came in and said, we're not doing an excellent job, and this is something you must do an excellent job at keeping track of all that. They're very good at ordering. They weren't very good at keeping track of everything ordered. So that was transferred to the treasurer's office. So we elect the treasurer statewide because it enforces the balanced budget amendment and then tries to return statewide the property that people own but has ended up with can't find the owner.
Well, there's a lot to being Nebraska treasurer, obviously. What makes you the best candidate for the job, and why should Nebraskans vote for you?
I would hope Nebraska would vote for me because I would do a very good job. I try not to say I'm going to be the best candidate because that then gets you off towards negative politics. I think I can do a very good job. I can identify things that the current occupant has not done and I haven't heard he's going to do. And therefore, that might make me attractive to the voters. For example, on underclaimed property, one of the issues I've run into in Sarpy County, we have a lot of military personnel and they transfer in and out. And it is not clear to me that the treasurer's offices across the United States are coordinating to find those persons when they move. So you'll have a damage deposit on an apartment, and then you move and they can't find you because, oh, they hold it for 5 years. And in 5 years you've moved 3 times if you're in the military, that we ought to be able to coordinate that and return more. And things of that nature. The transparency in government is one of the roles of the treasurer. So the Department of Administrative Service, after it writes all checks, does a memory dump of its database, and you should be able to go search that. But all large databases always have errors, and current treasurer just puts it up with the errors. And I would want to remove the errors so you could actually use it as intended.
And would that be a cost savings to Nebraska, or would it just serve as being more transparent to the voters? What is the benefit of that?
One benefit is just transparency. In terms of making the economy work better, we would get better bids. If people who want to bid for state contracts had a better idea of what had been bid and how it was bid, we would get better bids, and that would be a cost savings to the whole state, and it would be across the entire budget. In terms of transparency, the name of this program, Watchful Citizen, one of my favorite quotes is on the state capitol from where that comes, and the watchfulness of the citizens is facilitated by having transparency. It is good in its own right. It also will improve business efficiency because having that data facilitates doing business of government better. You'll hear some people say that I'm going to run government like a business. Well, actually that's unconstitutional. You're always supposed to get due process, but within the specific administrative tasks, you need to be more efficient, and improving transparency will improve the efficiency of the government, and that would save us money.
Excellent. You are the Democratic nominee for the office. How's your campaign going so far?
I've been going very fun. I had been elected in '89 to the Omaha Public Power District Board, and so I've campaigned before, and it is a lot of fun. You get to go meet a lot of people. Running for a statewide office, one of the advantages, you get to go across Nebraska more than once, and you don't do it typically on Interstate 80 because that's not the most beautiful part of Nebraska, as anyone who's taken any of the roads across Nebraska other than Interstate 80. It's much prettier. in other parts. And you get to see all the other counties and go to parades and dinners, and that's been a lot of fun. And I think as I've gone out, people, of course, are pleased to meet candidates for the down ticket offices because often they don't get to meet them. And so that's one reason I've been doing it. I really enjoyed last week at the State Fair.
So you've gone out to the 3rd District then, which is
Oh, a lot, yeah.
kind of, sometimes they feel like they're left out of the political process
Yeah.
because of Lincoln and Omaha being on the eastern side of the
In
state.
some respects, it's easier to do retail, hi, how are you politics in Omaha and Lincoln.
Right.
But the 3rd District has many gatherings, you know, parades and things of that nature, that where you can get out and meet people. And you do want to do it. I mean, like the State Fair, I was standing and handing out cards. My count was we had more than 100 people an hour coming by for the 15 hours I was there. So,
That shows some
better.
interest, and so,
Yeah,
yes.
that's far better than you'll get in most Omaha and Lincoln locations.
So, Michael, do you have a wife, family, and are they helping in your campaign, or do you have a campaign staff? Tell us a little bit more about the inner workings of your campaign.
My family, when I moved to Omaha, I had moved here with 2 brothers and a sister. The one brother is now deceased. The sister lives in Salt Lake, and the brother is a judge down in Kansas. Mom and dad are deceased. I was married. My wife died last year, and one reason I gotten out of politics is if you're really in close, you see a lot of people work very hard, lose, and it's distressing. And she said, I don't want that anymore. But after she died, I went, well, I liked it. And so I got back in. My campaign staff is pretty limited. I'm doing a very much grassroots type of campaign. I have a campaign staffer who is a member of the Young Democrats at UNO who volunteered at an event, and it's my treasurer, Truman Gerhold. And he has done parades when I couldn't do the parade because I was at a different event. And he's really been enjoying doing that. My wife's family in Omaha were the Italians. Her father helped found the American Italian Heritage Society. They just had their La Festa Italiana at their brand new facility, and that is always one of the highlights of the year, is going to that. Although I found out the Irish do the same thing as I went to the Irish Fest last night at Holy Name Church.
So do you have a website?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and what is the website in case our viewers would like to visit
With a
it?
really catchy URL of O'Hara, O-H-A-R-A, 2014treasurer.com.
All right, O'Hara 2014 for treasurer.com.
2014treasurer.com.
Treasurer.com.
And that also has a link. The treasurer, being younger than I, thinks Facebook's neat, and he has set up a Facebook page.
Yeah, Facebook is a challenge, that's for sure.
The advantage is once you do something, like when you answer surveys, you can put your surveys up on that, and people can find those prior answers. And of course, the link, when we have a link to this video, we'll put that up as well.
Great, wonderful. I understand that you have 2 opponents
Yes.
that you are running against. What challenges does that represent to you as a candidate? And have you had debates with them or planned for that type of thing?
Well, the Democratic Party has asked the Republican Party for debates, and the Libertarian Party, and got no response from either. I'm not particularly surprised. The incumbent is Don Stenberg, Republican, and this, if my count is right, his 11th statewide campaign. His first one dating back 1978. Good trivia question would be, what was that for?
What was that for?
Lieutenant Governor.
Okay.
But the other opponent is Mike Niebel, and he's on the Libertarian side. One way that makes it interesting is you have to mention more opponents. Another is it's harder to know what issue would just be yours, but that motivates you to go away from negative campaigning, because some of the issues are just straight up. Like, obviously, return more of the unclaimed property. That's your job. All treasurers have always done that newspaper ad, and I go through it and I wonder how hard they really are trying at times. Example, one of the local Douglas County elected officials was owed money, and it took them a while to find him, even though because Don Stenberg has been in office a long time and Nebraska politics a long time, he knew this guy by name. He obviously didn't look at the list. Yeah, I'll look at the list.
Expand on the office a little bit more.
Sure.
What is the budget of the state treasurer, do you know, and where do the revenues come from?
The budget, if you look at it in terms of how much money and the budget goes through the state treasurer's office, you go, what are they doing? A lot of the money is pass-through money. So,
pass-through money.
Right.
Explain that a little bit.
So that the legislature will authorize the expenditure, and then it will go from the Department of Revenue into the treasurer's office, and the treasurer's office out to the counties or out to the cities, or to specific funds such as the unclaimed property fund. So that if you do first blush, you would go tens of millions of dollars for a treasurer. And then when you get down to it, you go, okay. With the, depending upon what tasks you're doing and at what time, the treasurer's office at different times has been as small as 25 and as large as 40 employees. Well, that, for 20 million, that would be really well-paid employees. But mostly it's pass-through money. And one of the tasks is to get that done efficiently. Efficiently is not necessarily cheaply. One thing that I think I can do well, having served on OPPD with we had 2,000 employees, you learn that you could cut your number of employees and increase your costs pretty fast, because there are jobs you have to get done and you have to get them done well. And part of the efficiency I'll bring as an economist who studies managerial economics, how you assemble production functions, is that I will do those jobs, I think, more efficiently, and that is truly less expensively as opposed to just lower immediate cost. I think not returning the people's money is bad. It might be cheaper not to do so, and the state then makes money on the deal because it goes into the permanent school fund. I think that, however, is the wrong way to be efficient.
So how are you getting your message out to the voters? Those are good components to run on, good issues. How do you educate the voters?
Most of my effort has been one-on-one, because when you're dealing with the noun ticket offices, like Senate and Governor, you can buy and just buy ads, buy ads, buy ads. And if you're going to do something like that, you need to think that you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to buy enough ads to have an impact. If you go out one-on-one, you can have a greater impact, because the advertising impact of one-on-one rarely is just one person. As you meet that person, they tell other persons, because really, quite honestly, how often do you meet a state treasurer candidate?
Exactly.
And you can get a multiplier out of that. If you were to do television ads, you'd sit there and go, okay, how many people don't have their television on? Of the people that have their television on, how many decide to go to the restroom during the ad? Of those that were there for the ad, how many were talking to the people in the room about the show that just shifted off? Of those that were actually listening, how many are registered to vote? And you get down to, yeah, you can do these massive ad campaigns with no impact. And so I've really limited how much advertising we're doing, instead reaching out one-on-one and working in a coordinated fashion with other candidates. The county commissioner seat in my personal county commissioner seat, Jim Kavanaugh is running, and I've been working heavily with his campaign. This morning I was out at a farmer's market with him, and we were going out and talking to people one-on-one, and that way you can get your message out. And then, of course, you do these type of events and parades. The parades I think are more to relax and have fun than actually get your message out.
Well, at least they can see who the candidate is.
Well, you throw a lot of candy and
right.
smile at the crowd.
Where can voters find more information about you? If they want to get involved in your campaign or just learn about your issues, are the issues listed on your website, or how are you?
All the surveys I've responded to, I put up on the website, and there are multiple places to put up surveys, like television stations, League of Women Voters, and I'll post those on my own website. As a university professor, if they like to see what I like to research, all my research is on my personal website. So if you go to UNO, cba.uno.edu, you'd find that, and they could see the type of research I do and the type of classes I teach. And if they're really fascinated, they could look at those course material handouts and go, oh, he either really does know economics and law or not. And I think I can bring that.
There's some opportunities then to volunteer or contribute on your website?
Yes. If they'd like to contribute, I never turn down the money. You can always find a use for it because you do buy the cards, the stickers and flyers, yard signs, buttons, all that stuff. The easiest way to contribute is actblue.com, and at actblue.com you go to the bottom of the page. The quick way is go to the bottom of the page, you'll say directory, then you pick Nebraska and you can find it that way. That's the easiest.
Well, in the last few minutes of our program, I think it would be good for you to maybe go over or reiterate the issues that you're going to fight for if you do become elected treasurer of the state.
Well, the balanced budget amendment is the most serious job, and you have to enforce that. The Constitution and statutes also put burdens on you so that if you cash a check that should not have been cashed, you're personally liable for it. And if you refuse to cash a check you should have cashed, you get to give the state 4 times as much. So it's a very serious part. And when you have a recession, it always comes up. We've had situations where treasurers have had to tell the governor and the chair of the Appropriations Committee, we got problems, the problems have arrived, and then we've done special sessions. So that's a very serious job. In terms of the cash management, I've seen nothing that indicates they aren't doing a fine job, but it's the type of job that you really have to pay attention to. I'm on other boards. I'm on the board of optometry in the state of Nebraska, and from that elected to an international body, the Association of Regulatory Boards of Optometry. I've learned more about optometry than I ever thought I would in my life. And I was appointed because I'm obviously qualified. I wear glasses. But it's fascinating stuff, and through that work I've reacquainted myself with some of the cash management issues, and that is the day-to-day meat and potatoes of the job. But I'm going to take a particular interest in how to increase funds to the permanent school fund. One reason we have such high property taxes in Nebraska is we have not been growing the permanent school fund across our history. As the school fund was originally started when the state was created, lands were given by the federal government to the state, and you had seen that in the newspaper this week about Axle Pipeline, that they had to buy an easement across the permanent school funds, and there's a separate body, the permanent school funds body that manages those funds. But it's a foundation for K through 12 education, and they only spend the income. They never spend the money that actually goes in. So once it goes in, it pays for K through 12 forever. If we had been growing that since our inception, I don't think we would have property taxes above 1/5 of what we have now. And I think we could get rid of property taxes with a few very simple maneuvers, such as when you pay a parking ticket. The cities and the counties claim 100% of that is administrative expense, and 0% of it is fine. The fines go in the permanent school fund. I would like to see, and I persuaded the legislature to entertain a bill at one time, to make a mandatory $1 fine, so that every parking ticket had $1 that went to the permanent school fund, and then you would basically get 4% of that every year forever, and a lot of parking tickets. And as you get tickets and those fines go in, that would build up the permanent school. The unclaimed property ultimately ends up in the permanent school fund. I think that is not good to have unclaimed property going in there more. It should be only the unclaimed property we couldn't return, and I want to increase the unclaimed property that is returned to the people.
Following up on just a short answer.
Sure.
Let's say you get elected.
Mhm.
We have a new governor. We're going to have a new set of state legislators in the unicameral. How do you see yourself working and establishing a good working relationship to actually get things done and avoiding the gridlock that we see in Washington and that we, quite frankly, have seen in our own unicameral in the past years?
We have seen more gridlock in our own unicameral in the past several years, but I worked at the legislature as a staffer in 79, 80, 81, and it's a very personal relationship. You have to bother to take time to go and meet the person, and that minimizes the emphasis on just taking grandstanding positions. And I'll never be taking grandstanding positions. It's supposed to be a job where you're a servant of the people, you're a public servant. One reason I do public service is I got 10 years of excellent education at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, and it was heavily subsidized, and I'm giving back. And I take that attitude, and I'll be able to work with anyone. And because we're servants of the people and we're doing their bidding. You do get very passionate people in elected office because they're thinking, I'm trying to represent everyone as well as I can.
Excellent. That is all the time that we have today. I want to thank Michael O'Hara, candidate for State Treasurer, for joining us today. We hope you will come back after you're elected and talk with us again.
Oh, I'd love to.
That's our show for today. Thank you for joining us for this edition of The Watchful Citizen, presented by the Lancaster County Democratic Party. Our show airs on Tuesday nights at 10:30 p.m., Wednesday nights at 6 p.m., and Saturdays at noon on Time Warner Cable Channel 13. For more information about our program or the Lancaster County Democrats, please contact our office. Our contact information will appear on the screen at the close of the program. Thank you for watching, and tune in next week for another edition of The Watchful Citizen. Thank you, Mr. O'Hara.
Bye-bye.